let's do a lightning round. Cue the pervy hip thrusting music.
You don't like that?
No, that's the music that Kelly gets dressed to every morning, and it's just uncomfortable.
Mini skirt and
it's the whole thing.
Tattoos.
She tells us. Sometimes she calls when she's brushing her teeth, and that music is just blaring in the background. She wants to talk about a show segment or something. It's super awkward.
So on brand for her.
All right, lightning round. Let's do it.
Yes. All right, we're doing lightning round, anxiety and depression. It's going to be so fun.
Is that what you do? I just imagine you telling your husband, like, we are going to clean the house, and it's going to be so fun.
Yes, we're going to smile while we do it.
We are going to clean the roof off,
it's going to be
so fun.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Go for it.
First question. You often hear of people being diagnosed with anxiety and depression together. Why are the two so often connected?
So when something's diagnosed together, it's called comorbid. I guess that means you die again. Maybe that's what that means. Not really. Not comorbid. But anxiety and depression are on the same trend line. And so you and I may have different genetics and different life experiences that lead us to this moment, and a bear runs in that door and your body shuts off. And it's going to stay shut off for a while, and my body's going to get up and spin up and get ready to rock and roll. Often, the difference between the two is not the particular stressor, it's just how our bodies are responding. And in some brain scans studies, it shows that the very similar brain mechanisms are driving both of those. All I have to say is they're on the same trend line, and if you're anxious long enough, your body will shut the system down. And sometimes it works vice versa. All I have to say is that's why.
Perfect.
Is that helpful?
Yeah,
I
think so. I was going to say thank you for bringing up my deathly fear of bears. So
you have that?
Oh, yeah. I've had nightmares. They just chase me. I'm not going to see Cocaine Bear. Let me just say that. All right. Next question. We're moving on. What is the difference between a panic attack and an anxiety attack?
Not a lot. Panic. I think that's kind of internet splitting. Panic attacks usually don't have a trigger. They just show up. So we'll be walking on the street and all of a sudden I'll get real short of breath. My heart will beat 1,000 miles an hour and I'll double over and my brain I start spinning with all these negative thoughts. Anxiety attack is usually, I got to test. And it slowly wears you down. The reason I don't care so much about which one it is the physiological mechanisms are usually pretty similar. Your heart starts beating really fast. Your body is ready to go to war, right? Or it's ready to get the heck out of there. And so, it's one of those things that if you're sitting there and someone you love can't breathe and they're hyperventilating and they're having all these catastrophic thoughts and you're trying to figure out, well, is this a panic attack or an anxiety attack? Not helpful, right?
Right. Okay, so are there any symptoms of an anxiety attack that I can pinpoint before it happens?
Anxiety attack, I mean, just using the internet literature, which is, that wasn't very good. Never mind. My science friends will just roll their eyes at what I just said. And so say your question again. I'm sorry, I got lost. I don't have a lot of friends.
Are there any symptoms of an anxiety attack I can pinpoint before it happens?
I mean, if you start ruminating pretty hard, and you start spitting yourself up and the thoughts you are having your heart starts racing on you and you start having real shallowness of breath and you will feel like I need to go for a walk, but I can't go for a walk. You feel it starting to come on. And again, that's so person specific, right? So I don't want someone being like, I think I'm having a panic attack. I think I'm having an anxiety attack because you can sure talk your way into one, right? I think getting upstream, as soon as you start having those ruminating thoughts, that's when you can build in some, I'm going to stop this conversation right now. Or I've talked about on the show, I'll be walking through my living room and I'll just be like, no, stop. Or I'll be in the shower and my wife will hear me yell out, no. And that's just me. I'm stopping a conversation, a fight that I'm having because I don't want to end up down river that way.
Right. Does alcohol or caffeine cause anxiety?
Oh, that's a great question. I tend to think caffeine mimics the symptomology of symptoms of anxiety. And so if I have way, way, way too much caffeine, my brain starts spinning a little faster. My heart rate is beating. I'm kind of clenched up a little bit. And then my body's like, oh, we're supposed to be anxious right now. And it will follow suit. Alcohol has some GABA effects. I don't get all that stuff. But yes, there's a reason why. I think Anna Lemke talks about it best about the teeter-totter. And if you depress neurochemicals on one side, your brain will respond by smashing the other side of the teeter-totter. And so if you have a depressant effect and you shut some of the system down, it will come back in full force on the other side. So yes, it can. There's a reason why you wake up in the morning after you've had too many drinks the night before and you have that anxiousy feeling. What did I say? What did I say? Did they think I was crazy? Who did I kiss? Like all that. I mean, that's a natural, I don't want to get all the neuroscience of it, but yes.
Awesome.
And I also think this. I also think in the long term, alcohol has, it messes with your sleep and it screws up your REM sleep. And over time, a body deprived of REM sleep will begin to try to get your attention and let you know things are not well at home and it'll start rattling. So I think there's a long-term effect there too.
Yeah. What are the best things to do when having an anxiety attack?
Drink. Just kidding. Don't do that. So this happened in a parking lot. I pulled up and there was a bunch of people leaning into a car, and I was like, "What is happening over there?" And I walked over and realized someone yelled, "Someone's having an anxiety attack! Someone's having a panic attack!" And so I cleared everybody out of the way, and then I reached in and said, "Will you take my hand?" And she did. And I said, "Would you be willing to walk with me?" So she got out of the car. And I literally put her hand on my chest and we went for a walk. And so I held skin to skin contact here. I let her feel my heartbeat literally. And we walked around the parking lot and I had her look at things like, "Tell me what's there." She's like, "There's grass." I'm like, "Yes, where's the leaves?" And she's like, "There's one, there's one." And all I was trying to do was bring her body into the right now. And so skin to skin contact, heartbeat, like just getting your body from some future terror to you're here right now and you're okay. And it's pretty quick.
Yeah, I've kind of dealt with that before where I find it helpful to do like the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method where it's like 5 things that I can see just to kind of like get my mind off. 4 things that I can hear, 3 things I can feel, 2 things I can smell.
I've never heard that.
1
That's
thing
good.
I can taste. Kind of like to get your senses to like start focusing on something else. And by the end of it, my breathing's calmed down, my heart rate's down, and I just find it so helpful.
I like that. Back when I was doing death notifications or I would show up to somebody's house and there was madness. We used to just go for walks, and it was not be strange for me to be holding hands with a 55-year-old man walking down the street, and all we're doing is just counting cracks in the sidewalk. Like, let's count 1, 2, and let's count the trees. And so we're just coming back to humanity here because what he just saw, his life will never be the same. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Next question. You say anxiety is like a smoke alarm. Can you explain that?
Yeah. In our culture, we've turned anxiety into a disease or into a genetic disorder or into some sort of illness that comes upon you, like the flu or like COVID. It's like something you catch. And so when people say the words like, "I have anxiety," it's either talking like it's an identity, like this is who I am now. I'm just an anxious person who experiences the world in this way. Or I have a thing that I caught. I've got a thing now. And I reject both of those I reject all that across the board. All anxiety is your body trying to get your attention. It's just trying to let you know, generally speaking, you haven't been taking care of your body. Like me, too much caffeine, 300, 400 milligrams of caffeine a day, my body's going to start rattling after a while. And then I'm not sleeping, and then so on and so forth. I'm disconnected. Your body has found itself without a tribe. And by the way, you can have great workmates. You can be married and happy, and you can be profoundly and deeply alone. And so it is when your body detects you don't have a tribe, that you are all alone, or if you're not safe. If you're in an abusive relationship, you don't have autonomy, you don't get to make decisions for your life. The bank does, your boss does, things like that.
Awesome. Okay, next question.
So hold on. Here's why that's important. If you feel anxious, if you rush to stop the anxiousness, man, that's like getting shot and rushing to just cover up the hole in your body instead of trying to figure out where's bullets coming from, right? Who's shooting and why? And so when you feel anxious, man, what a gift to your body to step back at least an inch and just say, what are you trying to protect me from? If we all just asked ourselves that question, man, we'd have a radically different world.
Right. Yeah. My husband's anxiety can lead to him lashing out at me. How can I help him at these times?
I reject that sentiment. Nobody's anything makes them do anything, or very, very rarely. Your husband is choosing to respond to those alarms by swinging. And so what you can do is you can't make him do anything. You can control you. And so if your husband gets anxious and then lashes out, you can say, I will not be in a home where I feel unsafe. So when you get anxious and you lash out, I am taking that behavior as a language. And the language you are giving me is, I don't want you here anymore. And so I will leave. I will not be in a place where someone's going to talk to me that way, treat me like that way. And if you have anxiety and your body's impulse is to lash out, right? Fight or flight. I'm going to fight. When I get anxious, my body's response is to run. And that's not helpful when I have 2 little kids and I have a wife at home and I've got work and all that kind of stuff. So when you find that your body has an impulse when it gets anxious, it's my responsibility to deal with the anxiety, to deal with that impulse, and to continue to treat people with dignity and respect, including myself. That's on me. I have to do the things that I know I need to do to get well. Sometimes let's go sit with a counselor. Sometimes let's go talk to a medical doctor, psychiatrist, whatever that looks like. That's my responsibility, not somebody else's.
Yep, that's good. Is there such a thing as situational anxiety, like before a job interview, going out of town? Some have flying.
I mean, we're getting into semantics here. I just call that stress. And yes, there's tons of stress. And stress is really good for you. This morning, I was lifting weights. And if I had lifted weights with no weight on the bar, that would not have done my body any good. So I put weight on the bar so it would stress my body out so that my body can respond to that stress in an appropriate way. Similarly, like if you got a job interview, your body needs to have some stress, man. It's a big deal. Don't screw this up. You're not going to get that job, right? You need to prepare. You need to shower. I don't know. I was going to say bathe and shower, whatever you need to do. Sit down with some people and go over your interview answers, whatever. So stress can push us to do good things. So that's a situational anxiety. I mean, I just call that stress.
Awesome. Okay. Last question. Is anxiety ever beneficial?
Yes. Good grief almighty. Who wrote there's a book called Good Anxiety. Who wrote that? I can't believe I just lost her name. Yeah, Wendy Suzuki. Yeah, good grief. I can't believe I lost her name. She really maintains what I just said, that when your alarm systems are going off, that's a good thing. I would say my smoke alarm in my house is a good thing. She would say, when your body's trying to get your attention and you go exercise, then it's done good for you. And so you can reframe it. Anxiety is such a catch-all word nowadays for anything that makes us go, we all say, I got anxiety. Not really. When I had clinical anxiety, there was nothing good about it. It burned a hole through me. And it burned a hole through my relationships. And I did not respond well to it. So actually, it didn't burn a hole through my relationships. I did. And so there wasn't a lot good with it. In retrospect, as I began to get well, I began to see that I'd created a world that wasn't inhabitable for me or for my family. And so I guess it was good in that way, but man, I wish my body had done it another way. But to be honest, it probably was trying to get my attention for a long time. And it just hadn't been able to do it. So it finally started shutting the thing down.
Well, that was
I don't know. I mean, you've experienced it. Have you ever felt it to be good?
I don't, maybe in some situations where I'm like, oh my gosh, if I wasn't feeling anxiety, I'm like, maybe there's something wrong with me that I'm not feeling anxious about this thing. Like you said, like for job interviews, like the stress, like before of like, if I'm not feeling anxious and like excited and ready, there's something wrong with me.
Gotcha.
So I think that's the only way that I could see it as beneficial in my mind, but.
Gotcha. Yeah. I don't know. Here's what I don't like about the internet culture we're in now is there's going to be someone who's got anxiety, who's doubled over with it. And I don't want their husband being like, it's good for you. And that's terrible. And on the other side, I don't want somebody who's stressed out about something who thinks and this is the world we got where people have just regular stress. Life is stressful. Life's hard. And everyone runs to do away with the discomfort and they label it some sort of diagnostic now we've got, what was it one we had the other day that was high functioning anxiety. I mean, it's just making up crap now. Like like when you start labeling everything with a diagnostic and to try to do away with any sort of discomfort, man, you do away with any sort of growth in the world, and any way of getting from point A to point B, and we just want to stay in atrophy. And I don't know. So I don't like the question just because it can be weaponized either way. And I think stress is usually good until there's too much of it or it becomes a way of life. And I think anxiety can get your attention in a positive way, and it can also bury you. So I don't want to say it's good or bad. I think it just is. I think how we respond to it is really what determines whether it's good or bad.
Awesome. Well, I had fun. That's over.
You're so ridiculous. Well, I had a great time.
Yep.
Great time. All right, cool. That was it. That was, are you going to take us out with some more jamming tunes?
I mean, I can.
I think the world needs some more of this. So